There is a lot of opportunities from the investment perspective, firstly, for both the international investors and the local investors. From the international investor perspective, we have opportunities within the upstream sector, the oil and gas exploration. So these companies can come on board in Namibia, acquire petroleum blocks, or buy interest in some of the petroleum blocks, and then partake in the operation as well as in the exploitation of the oil and gas. And additionally, the coming of new international investors in the oil and gas sector also presents opportunities for the local companies, because these investors now are obligated by the Ministry of Mines and Energy to partner with the local companies in their petroleum blocks. So when they apply for these petroleum blocks, and then they come in with the local companies can start partaking with that minority stake they have in the license, and they'll start learning about the industry, getting into the insight and the know-how, getting the skills, which will help them grow in future to become some of the reputable companies within the energy sectors. And also a lot of challenges is in that some of these challenges is our opportunities. How do we ensure that we harness the oil and gas exploration in Namibia? What are the things we should put in place? What are the reforms we should do from a regulatory and legal perspective? And in terms of the ease of doing business, what is the support we need to give to these oil companies who are operating in Namibia? Be it from them setting up the work visas, ensuring that they get the necessary help in terms of whatever they need from all the regulators and stakeholders, like the port authorities, the Ministry of Mines and Energy. So all that combined, it appears as there are challenges, but there are opportunities to propel the industry.
So far, do you see Namibia positioning itself well to attract international investment in its oil and gas industry?
Yes, I'll answer in the affirmative. Namibia is positioned well, and it will still be more positioned well because of the investor-friendly circumstances which are prevailing at the moment. Firstly, we have a very stable fiscal and legal regime. Our taxes are very attractive. In terms of the royalty for the oil and gas, it's one of the lowest, it's 5%. The petroleum income tax at the moment is 35%. And also, a lot of the incentives is that more additionally to what I've indicated is that we uphold the rule of law in Namibia. There's democracy, there's accountable and transparent institutions to ensure that the regulators and those who are implementing the policies are being checked on. And property rights also are protected, so which ensures that investors are not scared that their investment or assets will be expropriated by the state. So at the moment, we are very attractive jurisdictions for oil and gas in the whole world.
Okay, now what role do you see for local content development in Namibia's oil and gas industry?
Yes, there is a big opportunity for local content, local participation, to partake and ensure that we build our own Namibian champions. We build our own entrepreneurs, our own companies who will be doing the exploration and the production. We build those companies who will be doing the logistics, those who will be doing the infrastructure, and then we build and have more consultants as well as expertise in the sector. So the opportunity is there already, but it can be enhanced with the help of the government to ensure that the policy framework, that is the local content framework, which the government of Namibia, through the Ministry of Mines and Energy, are busy putting in place, that it's fast-tracked, and also ensure that it's fit for purpose, and ensure that also it does not frustrate the efforts of the investors. So we need to fast-track that local content policy, and also ensure that the regulations are put in place for the local content to regulate the industry, to ensure they comply, and also to ensure that wherever they don't comply, there are penalties which are involved. So that is the opportunity which can come with this legal framework. However, we don't need to wait for the local content policy and regulations because they are already local content provisions as we speak within the Model Petroleum Agreement as well as within the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act of 1991. So there are already provisions or clauses which compel the license operators to make use of Namibian service providers, as well as manufacturers and suppliers whenever they're available for some of the services which these operators or international oil companies are using. And some of the Namibian oil companies have already started partaking and doing these services. So hence, this is the opportunity for the masses, to attend the conference, apart from attending also to be glued to the media as well as, to know what is happening within the sector so that they know how to participate.
Yeah. So, Mr. Nyambe, talk to us about the current trends in offshore exploration and production in Namibia.
Yeah, thank you. There's a big hype in Namibia because of the oil and gas discoveries which were done by Total Energies as well as Shell in 2022 and recently towards the end of the quarter of last year by Gulf. So because of those oil and gas discoveries now, there's a high appetite from investors in the oil and gas sectors to come and invest in Namibia. So the biggest trend at the moment is within the mergers and acquisition space, where we see a lot of these international oil companies acquiring some assets in Namibian offshore. So they're buying some of the petroleum blocks or buying some interest in some of the petroleum blocks so that they can be part of the operation and part of the success in Namibia. So there is a high number of mergers and acquisitions which is happening, and we should expect more. And then we should also expect more of the drilling by the oil companies, both offshore and onshore. So we should expect at least 3 to 4 wells to be drilled. So already that also excites the industry, excites the country, and we see more happening also. And then apart from that, the government through the Ministry of Mines and Energy are also looking at how they can enhance their legal framework for the oil and gas. So they're busy working on some of those things.
So as much as we are excited about these new discoveries, there is an issue of environmental well-being. How is Namibia's oil and gas industry addressing environmental and sustainability concerns?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the good thing about Namibia is that we have experience in dealing with environmental issues or regulations as it's related to mining. So in the mining sector, a lot of diamonds, uranium, gold, copper is being mined in Namibia for over years. Our regulators, policymakers have managed to ensure that environment is protected. And remember, with mining, the excavation and the disturbance of the land happens at a large scale because some of the mine is open pit. So that experience from our regulators and the policymakers is what is helping also our regulators to manage the oil and gas exploration, which it's regulated, highly regulated in terms of the Environmental Management Act, as well as the environmental impact assessment regulations. So all these laws are in place which regulate what is it you must put in place before you drill, the permits you must do, the anti-pollution or anti-spill disposal plan, your drilling plan should be intact. So all these requirements combined with the legal framework, we should be able to handle any environmental concerns. But all these things requires a lot of monitoring and evaluations from the regulators as well.
So lastly, Mr. Nyambe, what is your overall expectation after the conference?
My overall expectation is that we are going to discuss a lot of these pertinent issues from Namibia's potential as an oil and gas producer, looking at the local content provisions and dynamics, also looking at the need for the infrastructure which we need and how others are doing it in other jurisdictions, the regulatory reforms, and importantly also the financing of the energy projects. What are the opportunities and what are the challenges? So at the end of the day, we believe this will be helpful to both the regulators and the policymakers in terms of the things which they should challenge to ensure that we have a prosperous oil and gas industry in the country. And it's good that the regulators will be involved as well, the policymakers, the international oil companies, the NGOs will also be there. So we hope this conference is going to bring a lot of hope, a lot of directions, which will result in tangible steps, which both the government as well as the industry will propel forward to ensure that our oil and gas industry is prosperous.